So Demi Lovato, we've been wondering, and I think we figured it out, exactly how is she re-entering the world after being in rehab for 90 days after she almost died from an OD? And we have an answer, and this is a really interesting story about how somebody resumes their life and tries to do it in a way where they're going to maintain sobriety when they've had a very difficult time for years and years and years doing that.
Right, and the plan for Demi involves, it's a two-pronged attack, that she's splitting time between a sober house and a regular residence, and there's someone who's with her at all times now, and that is her sober coach, who's with her 24/7, but
I think it's really interesting. I think that split is interesting. That she's living 3 days a week in a sober house, 4 days a week in a private home.
Right. Now, in the sober house, obviously, there are counselors there, and also she's surrounded by other people who are going through the same thing that she is going through, and which is recovering.
And it also monitors you monitor yourself in a sober house, that you can't misstep as easily as you can in a private house where people come over and do whatever.
Right.
But she didn't want just to live, and she has lived, by the way.
In the past, she's done just sober house.
For like 2 years after she got out of rehab, lived in a sober house. Even though she didn't have to, she didn't trust herself enough and wanted to make sure she maintained sobriety. So she actually lived full time in one for almost, I believe, 2 years. This time she's splitting it.
And the perks of that private residence that she has out here is she's able to do kind of day-to-day activities and kind of transition herself back into that normal life. It's going to the gym, it's running errands, she's attending AA meetings on her own watch too, while having this sober coach with her.
And you know, the other thing that's interesting is we talked about this guy, we broke this on the website, we showed you pictures of Henry Henri Levy, the clothing designer, and he also owns a clothing line. They're super close. They met in rehab 5 years ago, and he seems to be with her all the time, and they attend AA meetings together.
He is not the sober coach that we were referring to.
He's not the sober coach, but they're going to AA meetings. Brad, I believe it's 3 times a week?
She's visiting the sober house 3 times a week. I know it's multiple AA meetings a week, but not sure exactly how many.
A lot of times they say go to an AA meeting every day after you get out of rehab for an indefinite period of time. So we don't know the exact number. I had heard something about 3, but maybe that was the sober house itself. It's just an interesting look into how somebody
she does it,
how somebody gets out, and somebody really committed to staying sober, how they do it.
Winford from Dayton, Ohio. I just pray that this time she is stable enough to endure it all the way through, because there's always those risks when you take it upon yourself to do things back and forth.